Okay. And this person is saying that their grandfather was an artist and he created thousands of abstract, colorful paintings inspired by lucid dreams and visions. Can you expand on where these dreams and visions come from?
Well, from experiences in spirit, out of body, in parallel realities, many different places can inspire artistic expression in your particular reality. So if he was experiencing lucid dreams and visions, he may have been tapping into experiences he was having when he was out of body, when he was asleep, and bringing back the memory in the form of a piece of art, an expressionist kind of view of the experience he had on another realm, in another reality, tapping into parallel lives, tapping into extraterrestrial lives, tapping into the oneness of all that is, tapping into many different kinds of things. This is common for artistic expression and people who are inclined to express it that way.
When you see that where you have child prodigies, 3 years old, creating classical music,
Yes,
and they come from an artistic family or a musical family,
yes.
the genetics play a role in their ability?
They can, yes, in making it a little easier for them to access. It's like having, shall we say, a more refined receiver in a radio kind of sense that picks up on more rarefied frequencies, more capable to pick up on those rarefied frequencies. So, yes, that can come with the body. It can make it easier for the child to access those particular frequencies that would give them those inspirations, that would give them that knowledge and allow them to download it and express it physically in that way.
So, in the sense of that, the channel, Daryl, comes from a vocal family that has talent
Yes,
in the vocal area. Was that part of the genetic manifestation that was appropriate, or how did
yes,
that work?
yes. The answer is yes. Artistic expression, vocal expression, different forms of communication were important in the genetic structure. The ability to tap into knowledge about communication, knowledge about the idea of languages, knowledge about the idea of vibrational frequencies, whether that be expressed vocally or artistically, doesn't matter.
Really interesting. Um, this person has a really deep connection with wild roses, and they're drawn to rose gardens, everything rose. They have flowers all over their room. And their spiritual teacher has the name of Rosa.
Yes.
So they were wondering about creating a rose garden, and if you could guide them where the passion for roses actually comes from.
Well, it's a connection, especially with wild roses, to longevity and ancient times and ancient knowledge, because the wild rose, in a sense, is what you would call the original rose and has been around for thousands upon thousands, perhaps even hundreds of thousands of years in its present form. Everything else that you call a rose is usually hybridized off of that. So it's like going back to the original form, connecting to the idea of the ancient knowledge, the ancient ways of connection to the universe and nature. That's its general expression. Creating a garden would be an expression of manifesting different forms of it to share with different people who are attracted to different expressions of the hybridized original rose. So it's like planting seeds of love in different ways that people can relate to, different colors, different styles, but all goes back to the idea of the original wild rose, which forms the foundation of the expression symbolically in your culture of the expression of unconditional love.
Beautiful. This person had a bad trip on magic mushrooms, where they became aware of the billions of frames per second, and each second felt like 1,000 years.
Not sure yet why that's a bad trip, because it sounds like true insight into the nature and structure of how physical reality is created by your consciousness. So we're not sure why they are referring to it in the negative.
He said he was terrified of the experience and eventually asked for a gun so that he could wake himself up. He wasn't given a gun and eventually passed out, and then instantly was awake again sober.
Yes. Well, it was
Okay.
simply too much overload for the physical mind to process at that particular moment. And he wished to go back into spirit where he knew he could process it, he could understand it. He prevented that from happening and simply rebooted himself, reset himself, so he wouldn't have to have the overload experience. But he did experience the idea of the frame rate of physical reality that you create with your consciousness. It was just too much for that person at that moment. And so he blanked out, rebooted, reset himself.
Is that similar to the idea that if we were to encounter beings of a significantly higher frequency than we operate at, that we could go into psychic shock, so to
Yes,
speak?
but again, you have the protective mechanism of simply passing out, going unconscious. So you don't have to expose yourself to that vibration. So that might actually be the first reaction, is that you would faint.
Ah, okay. Um, we got a lot of questions about following your excitement.
Yes.
Um, this one individual is saying that when they wake up in the morning, they don't feel excited or passionate about life. Instead, they kind of dread going to work. And
All
how
right.
do you and they want to know how they can, they start having more excitement as the day progresses.
Yes.
But they'd like to know a permission slip or some way that they could feel more excited and follow their passion immediately upon waking up instead of having to go into this autopilot thing.
All right. Simple enough. First of all, remember that they've just had an adventure in spirit, and now they are focused back as their physical selves. So they're making a comparison that where they were in spirit is better than where they have come back to in the physical focus. They need to let that go. They need to remember they made a choice to be physical, to have physical experiences. And they were excited about making that choice because of what they would learn, how they would accelerate, how they would grow much faster in the physical experience than they would have in the spiritual one. So the idea is to remember that they made the choice to be here, and that was exciting. And they need to stop comparing the idea, which is something they have simply learned to do by being physical, that they were trained to do, by thinking that physical reality is less spiritual, less exciting than what they just experienced, whether they remembered or not, in the spirit realm as an adventure. So they have to stop making such a difference between physical and non-physical reality. And they have to remember that they chose to be physical and that at the time they made that choice, it was very exciting. And if they stop making such a difference between physical and spiritual reality, they'll remember that excitement and be excited the moment that they wake up to continue the adventure in a different way. It's not a cessation of the adventure they were having in spirit, it's a continuation of the adventure. That's the permission slip. Nothing has been interrupted, nothing is stopped, nothing is less than, nothing is better than. It's a continuation of the adventure in different terms, in a different context. And they can be excited about that.
And this person would like to know how they can follow their excitement to the best of their ability, refining the idea of what is the best of their ability.
Again, the idea of the best of your ability is what synchronicity and society tells you is possible or probable for you in any given situation. If something seems again to prevent you from going down a certain path, then you're not able to do that at that moment for one reason or another, by not breaking either the rules of society or by paying attention to the fact that you may be experiencing red light synchronicity, saying this is not the path for you right now. Take another path that you are able to act on that's exciting for you. If they pay attention to those symbols and signs and recognize what they are able and not able to do within the parameters of society or synchronicity, then they will be less confused. They will simply look for the thing they are able to act on to the best they are able within the context of your culture and society and planet. And they will move wholeheartedly in that direction, knowing that it's connected to everything else, and that eventually they may be turned back around into the idea of the other thing they weren't able to do before, but now perhaps have the aptitude to do because of what they learned by going down a different path temporarily. So it's about opening up to the fact that all paths are going to lead you to where you need to be if you're willing to take the ones that present themselves to you and willing to pay attention to the ones that say, no, not now.